What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm Warren Thompson, and today we have some new details, exclusive details coming from Empire Magazine about Adam Warlock, including our first full look at his entire character. In the first teaser trailer that we got for the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we only kind of got a glimpse at him. But here he is in this exclusive Empire Magazine look in his full glory. Will Poulter, of course, is the actor who was playing Adam Warlock, who a lot of people were very, let's say, nervous about. Most people knew him as the scrawny kid from the We're the Millers movie, or the eyebrows kid, depending on what you called him, but now he's all buffed up and he looks pretty dang good. Well, right away, let us know what you think about him in the comments down below. Now, this exclusive Empire Magazine article gives us, of course, some exclusive details about his character coming straight from James Gunn himself. So, of course, we're going to dive into this article and break it on down, but just so everybody is aware, Empire Magazine has been giving us some teases and some exclusive photos and info about things coming up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the full article about Guardians Volume 3 and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania goes on sale to the public in a few days on Thursday, January 19th. So look out for that and look out for our breakdown on that as well. But for now, sticking with Adam Warlock, let's take a look at this Empire Magazine article. It starts off by saying, ever since a certain cocoon appeared as an Easter egg in Thor: The Dark World's post-credit sequence, Marvel fans have been waiting for the emergence of Adam Warlock in the MCU. The ultra-powerful cosmic entity later got a more official tee-up for his upcoming big-screen debut, soon to arrive in James Gunn's long-awaited threequel Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. As established in Volume 2, the gold-hued Sovereign leader, Aisha, created him, and it does say here, in a different cocoon. The previous one is no longer canon, but she created him to take down our favorite group of intergalactic a-holes, the Guardians themselves, after they double-crossed her. So that is important to note. The Easter egg for Adam Warlock's cocoon in Thor: The Dark World is no longer canon, so we simply ignore that now. But I think a lot of people ignore Thor: The Dark World anyways. So all good. But continuing on with what James Gunn teases for Adam Warlock, the article says, get ready then for an incoming comic book favorite whose literal raison d'etre, which simply just means reason for being, is to take our heroes down. Or perhaps not, as James Gunn teases. He says it's kind of more complicated than that. And here's where we get some good details about him. He says, but he's definitely not a good guy. What we're seeing is the infant form of Warlock, newly out of the cocoon, and he does not understand life very well. He's basically a baby. Now, he teases more, but let's talk about this first part because it just makes sense. We know that Adam Warlock is supposed to be a good guy. He's actually probably one of the most well-known superheroes and favorites of comic book fans. It's kind of hard not to love a guy who straight up punches Thanos right in the face. Plus, not to mention in the comics, he has the Soul Gem. Now, clearly that is not going to be the case here in the MCU as the Infinity Stones have been destroyed, but he still does have a gem in his forehead. But moving on from that, he is going to be just a baby, is what James Gunn confirms. Granted, he is a very jacked baby and is probably still going to be just as powerful, but this explains how he's going to be the villain at first. Most of us assume since the Sovereign and Aisha created him, he would simply follow her orders to take out the Guardians of the Galaxy, which since she is basically his mom, he would do. However, he's going to come out fully formed. His body will be just as you see it right here, muscles fully developed, and he's going to be ultra strong, so he's going to be a huge threat to the Guardians. However, since he's going to be a baby, he's not going to really know why. So the big question was always, well, how is he going to turn good? And it looks like he is simply going to grow up. Now, since the Sovereign are all about evolution, I'm assuming that he's going to grow up relatively fast, like by the end of the movie. So I'm assuming that by the end of the movie, he is going to be good, but James Gunn actually teases this. He teases Warlock actually going on to be a critical hero in the MCU. Let's talk about this. The article continues, as babies go, he's a physically imposing one, arriving in the form of a beefed-up Will Poulter, the 6'3" Brit who, beyond popping up in Johnny Flynn indie flick The Score, was last seen on the big screen meeting a sticky end at the hands of Harga in Midsummer. James Gunn says, people online were saying, oh, Tom Cruise should be Adam Warlock. I wanted somebody who was youthful, and I wanted the person who had the dramatic chops and the comedic chops, not only for this movie, but for what Marvel will use Adam Warlock for in the future. And then James Gunn says he could become this really important character. Now, I do like that Adam Warlock is going to be somewhat funny in this movie. Of course, it's James Gunn and the Guardians of the Galaxy. You have to have the same humor, although this movie does seem to be a lot more dramatic than the last two. But James Gunn wanted somebody youthful, and we all get it now. He wanted Adam Warlock to be somewhat like a baby, so a younger version of Adam Warlock, who of course will grow in the MCU. And since James Gunn teased that he's going to be a very important character, I'm assuming he's not going anywhere. But this essentially tells us how Adam Warlock is going to eventually be good. It's going to be one of those things where you kind of realize that your parents aren't all that good. And I believe this is going to come by simply him asking the question, why? Why am I destroying the Guardians of the Galaxy? Why do you hate the Guardians of the Galaxy? And if it all comes down to Rocket stealing a couple of batteries, I'm not sure Adam Warlock is going to be down with that, especially after probably getting to know them a little bit in the movie. But here's actually what I think could really sway Adam Warlock, and I'm not sure how fans are going to like this. Some of the comic book fans may already be thinking what I'm thinking, because in the comics, Adam Warlock and Gamora are an item. They're together, they're in a relationship. And since we have a new Gamora in the MCU right now, specifically in our Earth 616 universe, I'm thinking that this still might indeed be an option. We know that this new Gamora is indeed going to be helping the Guardians of the Galaxy. Perhaps she is why Adam Warlock becomes good, because he sees this Gamora and experiences feelings for her and doesn't want to kill her. Now, this would obviously create a very complicated and messy situation with Star-Lord and, of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord loves Gamora, but this Gamora doesn't love Star-Lord. And there's no guarantee that they're going to continue that route and have the new Gamora eventually fall in love with Star-Lord. So it could be that they go a completely different route and simply have Adam Warlock and Gamora get together, just like what happens in the comics. But as sad as it is, there's also no guarantee that Star-Lord or Gamora is going to make it out alive out of this movie. Because we know that the real villain of this movie is the High Evolutionary, the person who created Rocket Raccoon. Now, I don't think that Rocket is going to die in this movie. It seems a little bit too obvious by the trailers, but I'm pretty sure everybody thinks Drax is going to die, perhaps Mantis, although I hope not. But what if Star-Lord dies? It would be terrible, and I absolutely would not like that to happen, but anything is really possible here. And that would kind of clear up some room for Adam Warlock and Gamora to get together in this universe. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Now, as far as the High Evolutionary goes, I believe, as I've mentioned before, that he could possibly be in charge of the Sovereign. The Sovereign is all about evolution, and so is the High Evolutionary. In fact, they could be some of his subjects. We know that he experiments on animals, turning them into humanoid forms, like Rocket Raccoon, and much like the people that we've seen in the trailer on Counter-Earth. This could explain how the High Evolutionary gets involved. And I think that he might have made a deal with Aisha, stating that if Adam Warlock brings him Rocket Raccoon, who escaped from him, he'll let her do whatever she wants with the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Because we know that Adam Warlock kidnaps Rocket Raccoon from nowhere, based off of what we've heard. But we also know that the High Evolutionary wants Rocket because he escaped, so a deal can be struck between the two of them. And this is why it's going to be extremely hard for the Guardians of the Galaxy in this film. They have to fight Adam Warlock, the Sovereign, and the High Evolutionary, who has an army of his own. So it won't be easy, and if you have a thought on who's not going to make it out alive, be sure to let us know down below in the comments. But in the meantime, also let us know what you think about Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. I hope you like him, because it looks like he's going to be sticking around for a pretty long time in the MCU and is going to be a pretty important character. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all things relating to the MCU. For live updates, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.